Hawkeye, and today on Maple Leafs Man Advantage, I'm going to talk about a number of trades, four different trades that happened before the 1975-76 season that the Toronto Maple Leafs did. Take a look at them and see if how those deals went down, and if maybe if Toronto should have done them or not done them. Um, Looking back, using hindsight and seeing if it was a good decision or not for each of these trades. And to get it out of the way here, I'd appreciate it if you like this video. You can hit like or subscribe as well. I've got lots of other videos on here, generally about the Leafs, not always, um, in the NHL through time, since 1967, and why the Leafs haven't won a cup. And certainly, if you want to comment on something I'm talking about or about the Leafs, whatever, generally hockey, right? But you can put that in the comments, and that'd be cool too. So, the first trade was on June the 5th, 1975, and this was a big one. The Toronto Maple Leafs and Montreal Canadiens, bitter rivals, they worked out a deal, um, and this was for the Leafs to try and improve their goaltending situation in Toronto. Unfortunately, the Leafs did not acquire Ken Dryden from Montreal, but they did end up getting Wayne Thomas. And Montreal, in return, received the Leafs' 1976 first round draft pick for Wayne Thomas. Oh dear. Yeah, this is going to be interesting. We'll take a closer look into this trade. Now, starting with what Toronto got here, Wayne Thomas. He had played 52 games for the Habs. He won 31 of those games, tying five, had two shutouts, a nice 906 save percentage, and a very nice 2.69 goals against average. Now, I'm remembering, though, he's playing for the Montreal Canadiens here, who had great defense, I'm believing from the 60s all through to maybe the mid 90s, decades of great defense in Montreal. Um, but after this trade, Wayne went on and played 191 games. He won 72 of them, tied 29. He did have a much lower goals or save percentage. Sorry, it was 887. And his goals against average was higher as well at 3.53. Um, he also had a 6-8 playoff record after this point. A better save percentage at 898, a good jump there. Very close in goals against. It was 3.54 in the playoffs. He also played for the 1976 All Star game. So the next All Star game, he'll be playing as a Leaf. So he must have played pretty well in that first season in Toronto. And then after his playing career, in the very next season, he became the goalie coach for the New York Rangers, who he was playing with after Toronto. But that was in 1981-82. And then three seasons after that, 1982 through 85, those next three seasons, he was an assistant coach for the Rangers. He was also an assistant coach for the Chicago Blackhawks in 1987-88, the St. Louis Blues from 1991 through 93, and finally the San Jose Sharks from 1993 through 96. There you go. Now, Montreal, in return, ended up getting Toronto's first round draft pick. Oh boy, who did they draft? They're usually excellent at the drafting table. Got some real steals from other teams. There's a potential to get that here, right? Because it's Montreal. They didn't, I'm not going to say they drafted a dud, but they ended up drafting right winger Peter Lee, who ended up playing 431 games in the NHL. He scored 114 goals. He scored 32 for the Pittsburgh Penguins in 1978-79. He also had 131 assists for 245 points. This was, in fact, the best player in that around that pick, like using him in the next four, like that group of five. He was the best pick of that group. Was Peter Lee. Now, Peter Lee was dynamite in the OHL. He was born in Chester, England, but he grew up in the province of Quebec. He played for the Ottawa 67s for 5 seasons. He played 280 games where he scored an incredible 213 goals, adding 231 assists for 444 points. That's a lot of points. In 1975-76, Peter ended up scoring 81 goals with 80 assists. That's 161 points in just 66 games. That's incredible. That's well over 2 points a game. He was the all-time leader in goals for the OHL until future Leaf John Tavares broke that record, and he ended up with 215, so just two better than Peter Lee. Unfortunately for Peter, that didn't translate into a very long NHL career, but he still put in the puck in the net. He still was able to play in the NHL, and he was a 30 goal scorer in that league. So that's who Montreal ended up getting in that draft. And when looking at that, and looking at Toronto's need for a goaltender right here, right now, they need somebody. I'm going to give this a green light. I'm fine with this trade. I'm usually not cool with drafting or giving away first round draft picks, unless, hey, if you win the Stanley Cup, man, whatever. You did what the whole point of this is to do, is to win the Stanley Cup. From the perspective of it being a sport, which uh, yeah, I don't know. It hasn't been for a while, but whatever. Um, but yeah, that's the end goal for me as a fan, is to win the Stanley Cup, right? Um, so I give it the green light. And yeah, just as I said, now on my very own team, I've looked ahead at my upcoming season, and believe it or not, I'm going to need a goalie too. And Wayne Thomas actually might fit the bill for me. So my own team, I'm going to do the same trade. I'm going to trade a first round draft pick to the Montreal Canadiens for Wayne Thomas, and he's going to end up playing net in Toronto on my team next year as well. So that's good. So there you go. Wayne Thomas will be a Leaf next year. Now, the next trade was on June the 20th, 1976. The Leafs continued to work out deals. This time it was with the California Golden Seals. They acquired center Stan Weir and gave the Golden Seals right winger Gary Sabourin in return. So we'll look at Sabourin here first, going to California. Um, at the point of the trade, he had worked or played 518 games in the NHL. He was going to be 32 years of age in the upcoming season. So California, I didn't look at it. Maybe they're looking for some more veteran influence in their lineup. They're not very good, California, right now. He had scored 141 goals, adding 149 assists for 290 points. He would go on to play 109 games over the next 2 seasons. Scored 28, including this upcoming season. He's going to score 21, so he's going to be a 20 goal scorer for California. To go with 39 assists for 67 points. Now, Stan, at first glance, you're thinking, okay, he's the better part of this deal. He's going to be just 23, almost 10 years younger than Sabrin in the upcoming season. He had played 216 games over the previous 3 years for the Golden Seals, and he had scored 42 goals with 58 assists for a clean 100 points. He went on to play 159 games for the Maple Leafs over the course of the next 3 seasons. He scored 42 goals, added 56 assists for 98 points. He then left for the WHA and played for the Edmonton Oilers for 1 season. Now, I'm not 100% sure, but he may have left due to not getting enough playing time in Toronto by the time he left. He had played just 30 games in 1977 78, and Stan definitely had more left in the tank to be playing not even half the games that the Leafs were playing. But he did score 12 goals in just 30 games. Um, and I'm not sure, maybe Weir had an injury too, and that's why he played so few games. Um, and it may have been Harold Ballard that drove him out of town too. He wouldn't be the first or the last for that to happen. But in the WHA, Stan played 68 games, scored 31 goals with 30 assists for 61 points. He then rejoined the NHL with the Edmonton Oilers and played another 267 games. And he also played for the Colorado Rockies and the Detroit Red Wings as well. He scored another 55 goals. He had 33 in his first season back in the NHL with the Oilers, 1979-80, and added 93 assists for 148 points. That's a good trade right there from Toronto. Too bad we're left for the WHA. But that's a good trade there. Thumbs up for me. We're for Sabrin. Uh, let's go. I don't have Sabrin on my team, so I won't be making that trade. Now, the next trade was just under a week later, June the 26th, 1975. I said the last one was 76. No, that was 75, a full year before that. Um, the Leafs and the Canadians were working out another deal. Um, and this time the Canadians acquired center Doug Jarvis. He was just drafted in the second round by the Leafs in the 1975 draft, while the Leafs acquired a defenseman, Greg Hubick. So we're going to take a further look into these players and see how that worked out. So on the Leafs side first, Greg Hubick had yet to play in the game in the NHL, just like Jarvis. But Greg would suit up for the Leafs in this season. He would go on to play 77 games in the NHL, scoring 6 goals with 9 assists for 15 points. Um, so that's not a whole lot in comparison to what Doug Jarvis did. And I've already shared these stats, but I'm going to cut them down and just mention them again here. It was in my last video, but he would go on to play 964 games, scoring 139 goals, 264 assists for 403 points. He would win 4 Stanley Cups with the Montreal Canadiens, win the Selke as the top defensive forward in 1983-84, and the Bill Masterton in 1986-87. There is no way I would make this trade. The Leafs should have held on to Jarvis. And in a very short period of time, they're going to be bringing in Roger Nielsen from the Peterborough Petes. And I would have loved to have seen Jarvis with Nielsen in Toronto, how that would have worked. That would have been pretty cool. But it never happened. Unfortunately, Fleets traded Jarvis, but they should have held on to him, unfortunately. And then there was a much smaller trade that happened in September of 75. The Leafs, and this time it was the LA Kings. The Leafs acquired center Tom Cassidy for an undisclosed amount of cash. Tom went on to play 26 games for the Pittsburgh Penguins in 1977-78. He scored 3 goals with 4 assists for 7 points. Whatever. I'll give this one the green light. It's okay. He didn't give up anything, and he got Cassidy. He went on to play for Pittsburgh in a couple of years, and it doesn't hurt the team at all. So whatever. So there you go. Those are the trades before the 1975-76 season. Yeah, a couple of good ones and a not so good one. Unfortunately, they did trade Jarvis to Montreal, but they got a new goalie in Wayne Thomas, and they got a good young center in Stan Weir as well coming to Toronto. So it might be the next video. I might talk about the 1975-76 season. I think so, and we'll see how these guys fared out in Toronto, how Toronto did, um, and what went on. Um, in their division, which I think was with Boston, Buffalo, and the California Golden Seals, I believe. But that'll be in the next video. But that's it. So yeah, until next time, go Leafs, go.